Carrie, I'm going to switch off your video as well, just to make sure.
Okay, cool. I don't really know how to do that.
Or I can't do it. You want
Okay.
to just switch off the video again? For
Me?
some reason when I'm doing...
okay,
there
I see.
you go. Perfect.
Are you okay?
Awesome. So hello everybody and good morning. Welcome to the second session. Maybe it's your first session, but this is officially the second session of the COVID-19 workshop series. And today we're going to talk about how to work from home and how you can stay productive and during this
I will make you tea in a wee while. I'm just in a training.
Also in general. I know that you are self-employed and that you're working from home. And this is a good refresher and a good reminder of
just don't stress and go to sleep.
Of different things. My name is Julia Arndt. For those of you that don't know me, I know that a lot of you are.
Relax.
But for those that don't, I am originally from Germany and live now in California for the last 6 years. And I am a peak performance coach and stress management trainer. In fact, I've trained over 250 people in the last 10 days alone from all different types of companies on these 2 workshops, because there's a big demand at the moment, as you can imagine, from all different kinds of companies and teams about how to work from home and make sure that we're still productive with this new situation. I worked for Google myself for 7.5 years, both in Dublin, Ireland, and in Mountain View in Silicon Valley, and started my own business, the Peak Performance Method, last year. So I'm really, really excited to bring this training to you today. And if you enjoy the training, or if you need to jump out of the training earlier, I'm going to do both trainings again. So how to navigate ambiguity and also how to work from home next week. And you can just fill out the form again if you want to and join the other training or have the second training one more time, whatever you want to do. There's absolutely no limitations. So we are, as I already mentioned, we are going to work a lot with a spreadsheet today, because it is a really nice way for me to feel a little bit your energy without having to jump in and talk with each other, because sometimes that can feel vulnerable as well. Today, we don't have too many vulnerable topics, I don't think. So I would really encourage you to participate. And for those of you that might be watching the recording afterwards, make sure that you are really participating as well, and that you're not just watching the recording, but that you're also really doing the exercises. And as I said as well, you always have the option to sit it out / to not share it in the spreadsheet and to just do the exercise for yourself. So we already did the check-in this morning. Thank you so much. And you will find also, there's a couple of things that you can find in the spreadsheet. You can find the agenda, you can find the main takeaways, my contact information. I'll say that again at the end as well. So today we're really focusing on how to be productive while working from home. And before we really jump into the training today, I want to ask you for your very first participation. And so we're going back to the spreadsheet. And the question that I have for you today is, I want you to think about what is really the biggest challenge that you have at the moment working from home. So take a minute, 2 minutes, and fill out that question. Okay, Julia says energy management and meeting overload. Dani, managing my energy and taking enough breaks. Sarah says maintaining a schedule, not getting distracted and going off into various easy but less important projects. Yeah, absolutely. Linda says staying focused without wanting to take a nap. Sometimes taking a nap is okay. We'll talk about that today. We'll talk about all of the things that you're actually mentioning today. So it's all really good topics. What else? Goku says not productive at all, ends up watching Netflix a lot and feels guilty about it. Yeah, no schedule. Totally get that. Natasha says combining work at home, children, schoolwork, and so on without losing too much energy while keeping time for myself. Yeah, that's really, really important. Carolina says procrastination. And Camelia says maintaining consistency throughout the day. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So yeah, so those are all really important topics, and we're going to talk about these topics today. So I'm glad that it matches up with what you're kind of experiencing at the moment. Awesome. So as I mentioned in my introduction, I created the peak performance method. And while I was preparing this specific deck and this specific training, I was thinking, I like put all of the different things together that I wanted to talk about today. And then I was thinking, wow, it's so interesting that it actually matches up with the peak performance method. It's a 3-dimensional method, and I'm focusing on 3 different areas. And it's really interesting that also our work from home life matches with that. And I could kind of adapt it for that particular reason. So I'm really excited to kind of show you the peak performance method a little bit. It's still adapted and it's still different to what I'm usually talking about, but there are some components that are really important and that I believe are obviously very important for maintaining well-being while staying productive and focused. So the very first dimension is the basic needs dimension. And I chose very consciously the triangle that points down, because in order to really rise, we need to root. And for some of you that might be more familiar with yoga, it's actually something that we say a lot in yoga as yoga teachers. And we are saying you need to root, you need to really root down in the ground with your feet on the floor in order to rise up. Because only if we are standing really deeply grounded, you are able to rise above and really come out stronger. This is also the dimension that I call understand yourself, because in order to really understand our needs, we need to understand ourselves. So usually in the peak performance method, we're talking here about routines, self-care, and values. In the adapted version today, we're going to talk about home. And when I'm talking about home in this case, I mean home without the work component. So the question here is how to start your day and how to end your day, and also how to get ready for work and how to transition from work to home. Because that is one of the things that we are not doing at the moment, or we're not doing enough, and because it is a new experience and it is a new situation. And of course, I had to learn it as well, because over the last year, I also started to work from home, and it's just a new experience and a new situation, and you have to adapt to it. The second dimension then is the work dimension. And the work dimension really is about, of course, improving your productivity. And what I learned from my own experience, but also from working with a lot of different clients, is that the biggest stressor that we have is usually work, because we are having too much to do. We're having a lot of different projects. We're having maybe a conflict with a stakeholder or with a client, and we don't know how to communicate or how to set the right expectations or how to set boundaries. So the work dimension talks about all of these different things in order to make sure that you're really focused and productive. And in today's world, in today's session, we are going to look in this, it's day's work, right? But in today's session, we think about kind of when we're working from home, that is kind of that part. And so what we need to think about there is how to start your workday and how to end your workday, of course, and then how to create daily priorities and plan regular breaks. Those are the topics that we're talking about today. And as you can see, there's a line between work and home, and I did that very intentionally because there needs to be a very clear line, even when we're working from home, to separate the two. And then the final component is the personal development dimension. It's also called in the peak performance method, reach your peak. And there I'm talking about things like mindset, resilience, and also emotional intelligence. That particular part, for those of you that did join last week, we talked about this in the how to navigate change training. So we're not going to talk about this dimension at all. But if you are interested and you're you're participating in the training for the first time today, make sure that if you're interested to sign up for the session that's coming up next week, I think on Thursday. No, sorry, on Tuesday. On Thursday is going to be this session again. All right, so this is the peak performance method adapted for working from home. And I really want you to start really thinking about especially those first two components, home and work. So let's talk about your basic needs at first. What we need to do in order to really start our day refreshed and we start our day with a lot of energy is that we need to take care of our own basic needs. What we usually do, and no matter if we're working from home or we're going to the office, we have created a little bit of unhealthy routines. For example, and I know this for a fact from my own experience and from a lot of clients that I work with, we usually wake up and we roll over to the bedside table, we grab our phone and we're starting to scroll through our notifications that we received overnight, we scroll through social media, we check our emails, and that is definitely not a really good way to start the day, because I always say, think about how much energy you're already giving out to other people and you haven't even left your bed yet. And so this is something that has made a tremendous change in my life, and I'm going to talk about this in a second as well. But creating routines, no matter if you are creating a routine in the morning or in the evening, you should do it at both times, is incredibly important to create more structure in your life. And that has a lot of benefits, as you can see. So it reduces really your need to plan and make decisions. We're making between 30 to 40,000 decisions a day. And so when you're creating routines, it's one less decision that you have to make. And it helps you stay consistent to positive and healthy habits, instead of, let's say, you're scrambling in the morning or you're waking up and you haven't had a really good sleep, that then you need to make a decision of what am I going to do next. You just do it because it is part of your routine. So it saves you time, which is obviously our most valuable resource, and it really builds momentum in the morning. And for me, it really gives me also a feeling of accomplishment before I have even started my workday, because it just makes me happy. So then a lot of people always ask me, okay, Julia, so what is your morning routine? What do you do in the morning in order to feel energized? And I have to say, this is my morning routine. But morning routines are super individual, and it doesn't absolutely mean that you should be doing exactly that in order to feel good in the morning. I just want to showcase one example, but you will see in the exercise that we're going to do here in a second, you will, everybody has a slightly different routine, and that's obviously awesome. So I, in the morning, get up, of course, and make my bed, because I like the feeling of accomplishment and of having structure and just a clean house. And then I go to the bathroom, I shower or I wash my face, of course, get ready there, and then have a glass of lemon water. I am actually still finishing it here. And then I'm sitting down to journal, because I have a very busy mind and I love to write. So what really brings me joy in the morning is to sit down and journal about my last day. Sometimes I journal about the things that are on my mind. Sometimes I journal about, I write a to-do list, right? I just write down the things that are on my mind that need to get done. And I always finish my journal entry with 3 things that I feel grateful for. And during that time, no matter how long that takes me, those first 4 steps, I do not take my phone even in my hand. I do not check my phone, because I have really learned, and I started this morning routine in October 2018 when I was on a medical leave for burnout, and I was really, really clear with myself that I wanted to bring some really big changes into my life in order to feel better and in order to have a better lifestyle. And so that's when I started to test this morning routine out and kind of perfected this as well to the way of how I liked it the best. And because I felt so much anxiety, especially in 2018, I really, really was intentional about, okay, where does my energy go and where does my head start to spin? And obviously it does when I'm starting to check all of my messages and notifications, because then it's like, there could be triggers in there, right? You know that when you're maybe getting an email from a colleague and you maybe read something into what they're saying, or maybe there's kind of a tense situation, it obviously immediately sparks you, and sparks your stress response as well. So for me, it's a huge game changer. I had a participant in one of the trainings yesterday that disagreed with it, because he said to me that he feels anxiety if he can't check his phone in the morning in order to see if he has meetings or emails. And I said to him, that's totally okay as well, because at the end of the day, it's important what you need. And even if you want to check your calendar in the morning, that's okay. The question is, how long after you checked your calendar are you still on your phone? So just be really mindful of that. And if there's one thing that I would highly recommend to you to integrate into your morning routine, it would be that last step, because not being on my phone for the first hour in the morning, sometimes 1.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours in the morning, has really changed my life, because I am doing the things that are important for me before I am spreading the energy to other people and take care of the things that maybe other people need from me. So now is your chance to think about your morning routine. And for those of you that are usually going to an office, I want you to think about these two-part questions. First of all, I want you to think about what is your morning routine when you are going to the office, and then has your morning routine been since you are working from home. And for those of you that are always working from home, I just want you to think about what is your current morning routine, and then where do you see maybe a gap, or where would you like to make a change? And then the last question, of course, that where do you see a gap that you can improve on, would be for both parties. So for the people that are employed and for the other people that are self-employed as well. All right, so this question takes usually a little bit longer to respond to, which is totally okay. So take 3, 4, 5 minutes. I will see how quickly you're about to fill out the tricks. But take your time to answer this question, because this is really, really helpful. And I want you to be as detailed as possible. All right, so let's get started.
Now, start the light might have to give it flexible, but it will evolve. There's nothing to do. Whether we call that, how are we going to be evaluating our performance? So the positive is having to interact with our customers. So there will not be called metrics once there's public follow-up. Having said that, it comes back to our responsibility when we build confidence. So we all just need to ask, think, and break so much. Simply have to support our office. Also break up responsibility. So no, we will not. I do actually improve this longer term situation. How we can support our office. Continue that conversation. But continue to have resources. We're working with it with by communication. Down to one, you go right into the next slide and actually put this forward. We started in the first 100
Yeah, okay. I'm already seeing some great answers, so I'm going to start commenting on some of the things that you're writing down. So Julia says, coffee, meditation, shower, commute. How do you start your day being home? News, coffee, meditation, cleaning, movement. And then she says, what can I improve on? Make the movement every day as it's currently twice a week, and stop looking at the news first thing. Yeah. So the news, there's something to be said at the moment about watching the news, because it immediately usually triggers our stress response because there are so many scary news at the moment. I'm talking more about that in the How to Navigate Ambiguity session. So that's definitely something that I'm recommending to my clients at the moment, that you are really mindful of how much you are consuming, how much media you're consuming, and at what part of like during what time of the day. Because no matter if you start or you end your day with media, it's not really healthy, I don't think, because yeah, there's just thoughts that we have on our minds that that just have an impact on how we feel, and that can trigger the stress response, and then we can't really focus on anything else because we are distracted and maybe feel anxious or fearful or wondering about what is going to happen in the future. So yeah, so I think that's a really great idea, Julia. Sarah says, meditation, journaling, stretching, coffee, dog walk, and work. And then she does the same at home, but much slower, with a few random YouTube videos, message thread replies, etc. thrown in there. And then she says, what can I improve on? Time my morning routine to reduce distractions, so I'm ready to work at a specific time every day. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I also just really like to have time in the morning. So sometimes my morning routine probably takes an hour, and sometimes it takes 2, depending on my morning and depending on my day. So yeah, for me, you know, it's, I start, I guess, my work day because I have meetings in the morning as well, or trainings. So I have to have a specific time that I need to start, and then I basically time it back as well and say, okay, if I have my first training like this morning at 8, I'm going to get up at 6:30, so I have at least 90 minutes to do all the things that I would like to do before I'm doing everything else. I'm going to jump here in something else, just to mix it up a little bit. Rachel says, rushed, make team get ready, get dressed, skin routine, quick breakfast, had to worked with folks in time zones that are ahead, so always have the sense of being behind on starting the day. And then from home, get ready, get dressed, skin routine, make tea and breakfast. Often will listen to a short podcast or music. Check calendar, check news, tackle first calendar block on my day, small project, not email, meditate midday as reset. Great, it almost sounds better for you working from home. What can you improve on? Meditate both morning and evening. Continue to block calendar ahead of time. Try going to bed earlier to wake up earlier and not feel behind, anxious upon waking. Yeah, absolutely. Incorporate more movement exercise into the morning routine. Ideally, a walk around the block once allergy season has subsided. Yeah, that's also a really good idea. 2 comments here. It absolutely makes sense that I always say, when you're starting your day earlier because you want to do a morning routine, make sure that the time that you take away from maybe your morning that you had before, make sure that you're adding that in the evening. So make sure that you're going to bed half an hour or an hour earlier than you're used to, because sleep is incredibly important, and is one of the best stress management tools. So the more sleep you get, the better you will feel usually rested in the morning. And then, yeah, a lot of people actually have some type of movement in their morning routine when they're going to the office, which you might not be super aware about, because maybe it's just a 5-minute walk to the bus stop, or maybe it's just a walk outside in order to get into your car, and then you get to the parking spot at your office, and then you walk to the office. But it's still movement, and it's still being in the fresh air, even though it's just for a few minutes. And so think about how you can still incorporate these kind of things into your day. So okay, awesome, great. So yeah, so this is really something that I would encourage you to test out, and to see how you can feel better in the morning, in order to really, when you're sitting down to work, you're starting to feel energized. So now that we talked about how you get how you have your morning routine and you're practicing your personal morning rituals, then I want you to start now working from home to think about how do I get ready for work and how do I start my work day. So I always recommend to have somewhat of a dedicated workspace. I know that, and I've heard that from a lot of clients and people that have been in the trainings, is that maybe you have a really small place. Maybe you only have a room, right? And your room functions as everything. Or you only have one table and it's the kitchen table and it is at the moment your office table and maybe even also your homeschooling table for your children. If that is the case, that's totally okay. Just be a little bit crafty and creative with that as well, and really set your system up for this is work. So it could be to put a lamp on the table when you're working, or to put, obviously your computer and maybe a piece of paper and a pen on it. Create it as your workspace. So make it comfortable as well, right? So maybe you put a picture frame on your table, just as you probably also have in your office. So make it kind of cozy and make it a dedicated workspace, even though it might be the kitchen table. So you're signaling to your system, okay, now we're sitting down to work. And once you have done that, we can start working. So now let's talk about how to set yourself up for success when you start to work. What we all usually do in the morning is either check our emails or jump into the first meeting, right? And what is really important now that you're working from home and we are all in this kind of particular situation with the coronavirus, it is really important that you set for yourself really clear beginning and end hours for the day, and then also communicate those by marking either your calendar, if people have access to your calendar, or inform your colleagues. And that could be in your colleagues, your clients, your stakeholders, right? Everybody that you're working with. And that could be either by an email footer. So for example, what I've seen is people literally clearly marking at the bottom of their email, coronavirus working hours, and then here are my 3 working hours or working blocks. So people know when you are reachable. Because we are all in really particular situations at the moment. And for those of you that might have kids, you are always trying to juggle everything. And I know that maybe feels safer, but then you're always hassling, right? And you're always kind of going from one to the next to the next. So why don't you just set really clear working hours, communicate those, and then, you have more mind space during the other times to take care of other things. So email footer can be really powerful. You can set an out of office notification, even though you're not out of office, but then they obviously get a reminder or a notification every time somebody is sending you an email. And that is really important, because one of the things that you really need to start thinking about when you are working from home is that you need to communicate a lot more than you think that you should. And here's the reason why. I really love this quote. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. We are sometimes so clear in our head, and we have this reality that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but you only know this. And because sometimes it's so clear for us, we forget that we need to communicate it to others so they know what's going on. So I really, really highly recommend to you that you are starting really to think about, have I really communicated this, or should I go back and send an email or have a phone call or whatever you need to do in order to set the right expectations with your clients and your team as well. And then the final step, when you're really starting your day in the morning and also just setting yourself up for success in general when working from home, is that you're really clear on your daily priorities. Because again, at the moment, when we are working from home, this is kind of an emergency state situation. And it means that people are working from home, and it's not just you, it's probably also your partner, and it's also most probably when you have children, your children are at home with you at the moment. So be really clear on what do you really need to get done. Like, we need to start being really clear on our priorities. I also always say that when you are working in the office, this applies to both situations, but of course, especially when we are kind of in this special state, we need to be even more clear, because of all of these things that are happening at the moment, we are usually less productive, or we just not really less productive, but we don't have that much time than maybe we usually have. So we have to be really cognizant of that. So here I want to give you again a little bit of time, and I want you to think about, today is Thursday, for some of you it's already Thursday evening. So I want you to think about, what are your top 2 to 3 projects that you need to complete? And you can choose your timeline. You can do today if you want to just do it for Thursday, for those of you that are here in the morning hours. You can think about it for tomorrow, for Friday, or you can also think about it for, what do I need to get done over the next 7 days / the next work week, so 5 days. And I know that oftentimes when I ask this question, people are like, I have a million things to do and my to-do list is endless. And I totally get that. But when we are really honest with ourselves, then we can really see that, really honestly, there's just maybe 1 or 2 things that we need to get done today. I know that we wish we could always do everything in a day, but obviously the reality looks different. So take a couple of minutes and think about, what are the top 2 to 3 projects that you need to get done over the chosen timeline that you're choosing. And this is something you can do every morning. Every morning you can sit down. When I don't have this training series going on, which of course at the moment dictates a little bit my schedule, I always do that. I sit down in the morning and I ask myself, what do I want to get done today in order to feel accomplished by the end of the day? Again, this exercise is absolutely for you. You know, most of us will not be able to really read something into this, and I'm not going to read those projects out loud. I just really want you to think about that. And then once you have completed this, once you have done entering your 2 to 3 projects, I want you to reread it and ask yourself the question, for that time frame that I just chose, is that really realistic? Because one of the things that we always do, always, is that we are having too high expectations of how much we can get done. And that is kind of leading us to overload, right? Because we always put more on our plate than we can actually manage. And then at the end of the day, we are feeling unaccomplished, and we are reopening our laptop in the evening because we think we still need to do something else in order to get that feeling of accomplishment. Yeah, and I like that some of you are also thinking about personal goals. So that's absolutely cool that you're putting that in there as well. Okay, so now that you have completed this exercise, or you have journaled about it, then the next question is, how do you now create a smart schedule based on your priorities? The first reminder that I always have to make, unfortunately, because we all have learned that our calendars are somewhat controlling us, is that you control your calendar. Even though you might have a lot of stakeholders, it is important that you are starting to be a lot clearer on what do you need to get done. And if it's really important to you, that you are starting to set really clear boundaries, and that you say no, and that you're learning these different things. This this is not going to be done in one session, and I wish I could give you like a secret tip that makes you be super good about setting boundaries with other people, but you can start, and this is really your invitation and your encouragement today to start with that. Make sure that your priorities, especially, you could even do this per week, but then you could also do it daily for just 10 minutes in the morning to be really clear on your intentions. Make sure that those priorities are really reflected by the meetings that you have in the day. Make sure that you're blocking time, especially when you're working for companies like Google. Make sure that you're blocking time for your projects and for the things that you need to get done. And then you have also meetings. Make sure that these meetings are reflected by your priorities and that you're not just saying yes to every kind of meeting that you have, because we are so used to just going to everything that we have or everything that somebody's adding us to, and it is not always necessary. So really question that as well, and create more boundaries around that. It's a subject in itself, and we could talk about this probably for an hour, but this is kind of the first thing that you can do. The third thing is that you need to be really clear about blocking time for regular breaks on your calendar, especially when you're working from home, because we are not taking enough time when we're being home, because we could just literally sit on our chair, on our couch for hours and forget that we have to get something done, get a break. And the thing is that can work really well for 1 day or for 2 days or even for 3 days. You might feel super productive. And then on the 4th day, you are feeling super sluggish and maybe even kind of on the brink of getting sick, or you have a migraine, or you feel super low energy. And it is your body's signal that you haven't had enough breaks and enough time to recharge on a regular basis in order to be consistently recharged and ready to go. And so your body is taking it back by maybe being out for a complete day in order to recharge. So you have to be really mindful about breaks. It's really important, and we'll talk about it. And then it's also important that you're blocking time and that you're planning a little bit more around social connections and happy hours, because at the moment we're all isolated at home. Some of you might have your family at home, and that's awesome. But it's also always important to connect with other people or to connect with your team, because you don't have those communications at the moment while just walking to the cafeteria or having a lunch break or something like that. And then for those of you that are alone at home, this is even more so important to make sure that you're not feeling completely isolated and lonely, because that can happen too, and it is happening at the moment for a lot of people. And really, I really highly encourage that you're not having back-to-back 30-minute meetings all day long. I know that some leaders or some executives that I work with, they literally have 16 to 18 meetings a day, 30-minute blocks. And that is extremely energy draining, and it is not getting the things done probably that you need to get done. And so then what happens, because we just have all of these meetings and we don't question them anymore, then we come home in the evening and we open our laptop and we do the things that we actually have to take care of in order to feel accomplished, or we're working during the weekends. And I'm really, really trying to get you to shift that. I know it's not easy, and I know this might be something that it doesn't matter if you're at home and in the office. It's something that you might not be doing at the moment, but you need to improve that and optimize it. And it can be optimized. There are a lot of people that I'm working with that are really successful with it, and that are opening up and freeing up a lot of their time. And also, when we are talking about schedules and about time management, we also have to talk about boundaries, because if we are not setting boundaries, we are inviting a lack of respect. And that sounds kind of harsh, but it is really the truth if you think about it. If you are working in the evening and you're receiving an email from your manager, and then you're replying to that email, you're giving your manager the signal that you're working in the evening and that you are available. And it doesn't matter if it's your manager or a client or a team member. And then this kind of just becomes a habit. And then they will always connect with you in the evenings because they know that you are there. And then all of a sudden, it's really hard to kind of go away from that. So I really encourage you, no matter if you have already maybe you know, some of these kind of examples that I just mentioned, no matter if you already have some bad habits and you need to get back to it, or or you maybe haven't yet, I want you to be really cognizant of setting clear boundaries. And again, boundaries is a topic in itself, and it's really important that you start thinking more about this. Okay, so let's talk about taking regular breaks. That's obviously really important. I just mentioned it, and there's a lot of research and a lot of data that is backing up the fact that taking regular breaks and fully disconnecting, this is the problem today. We're taking a break, and what do? We sit there with our phones, or we're sitting in front of the TV, and we are not fully disconnecting. We're still looking or staring at a screen. So once you do fully disconnect, it is statistically proven that it increases our productivity and it helps us manage stress. And the second question that I always get in with regards to this one is, how long should I take a break? Well, there's another study that says the top 10% of the most productive, so the most productive employees tend to work on average 52 minutes before they take a break. And those breaks are about 17 minutes long. And that means that if you're really good at math, that these top employees, they spend 70% of their workday actually working and 30% of their workday on breaks. But those are the most, they are the most productive ones. That's the word I was looking for. And here's the reason why. So I am not talking too much today about the stress response and what's happening, because it is in the other training. So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and how our stress response gets triggered, it's because it's in that other training. But one of the things that I do want to mention again, even though I do say it in the other training as well, is that your prefrontal cortex and your frontal lobe up here, so you see those are both the same parts, they are responsible for all these important things that you're doing throughout the day. Problem solving, judgment, planning, organization, concentration. But your frontal lobe is also responsible for regulating the stress response by making things less scary. And the thing is that your body can only do one or the other. It can only be in the stress state, or it is able to think about all of these different things. And that is why it is really important that you're taking breaks, because the more you work and the more you're putting kind of pressure and the more you are creating kind of stress hormones, because you need cortisol and adrenaline in order to function throughout the day, the more the prefrontal cortex will be busy with that and can be less busy with all of the other things that you should be doing or that you would like to have your brain do. And then the question that I also always get is, okay, so how do I know that I need a break? For me personally, when I start jumping between my tabs and I'm checking my inbox and the deck and I'm kind of just jumping around, but I don't do really anything anymore, I know that, okay, I'm just wasting time at the moment, but I'm actually not really present and really functioning at the moment anymore. So signs that you need a break: lack of initiative, sleep problems, you're working too much during the day and then your body hasn't had time to produce enough melatonin in the evening, and so you will be having sleep problems. You will have a hard time to disconnect. Irritability, right, or sensitivity, mood swings, slowness of thinking, longer recovery times. We talked about this. Why is this happening? Concentration difficulties and so on. So in the next exercise, it's actually not an exercise, it's more an action. I want you to go into your calendar right now, and I want you to add 2 breaks per day to your schedule. And here's a disclaimer. Your morning routine, so when you're eating breakfast, doesn't count as a break. And your lunch break also doesn't count as a break, because those are things that you should be doing anyway. So I highly encourage you to add 2 additional breaks, one between morning and afternoon or lunchtime, and then one in the afternoon between lunch and dinner. So take a minute or 2 and put that on your calendar. Also, disclaimer, we heard just from that study that on average the 10% most productive people take 17 minutes. It does matter, but I mean, even if you are if you're already putting 5 or 10 minutes per day and that you're really, that you're really, really cognizant about, that's really good, because it might be already more than what you're usually doing. It could be a stretch that you're doing in that time, making a coffee like really consciously, or getting a glass of water, or stepping outside, opening your window. We can't really do that in an office building, but now we have the chance to let fresh air in order to help our brain kind of refresh a little bit. Also, really important disclaimer, be flexible with that. Even if you're putting in a break now for 10:30 and 10:30 passes, and then it's 11 o'clock, then I still want you to take that break. This is more, those breaks that you're putting on your calendar at the moment is more a reminder that you need to be taking care of yourself. Then it's like this time or never, right? Because I see that a lot, again, with my clients. They set a goal, for example, in the morning, and then if they can't accomplish it in the morning, they just forget about it for the rest of the day. And I always encourage them to do it anyway, and then just to find another time during the day to do something. Okay, so now that you had a great day at work, you were really productive, you got all of your priorities done that you wanted to get done in your working hours, not outside of your working hours. Now is the time to transition from work to home, in order to really avoid that mental overload. What do you do when you are at the office and you're leaving? You're closing your laptop, you're putting it in your bag, and you're leaving. And you can do the same when you are at home. So again, be really cognizant of your dedicated workspace. Either leave the workspace and just, I can, for example, shut the door, which is very nice, and then I'm kind of out of it. Or close your laptop, put it in your bag, and then leave your laptop in that bag and really challenge yourself to leave it there for the rest of the night. If you are feeling more comfortable, because maybe this is something very new for you, because you have been working a lot in the evenings before, leave an out of office for the rest of the day and say, I'm out of office for the rest of the day, or it's not even out of office, right? It's like, I'm done for today, and I'm coming back tomorrow and will be answering all of your requests. Tidy up your workspace. So if it is your kitchen table, put your lamp away, put everything away. So now it's your kitchen table and not anymore your workspace. And then it's really important to transition into your home, because if I would be sitting in this room for 12 hours and then I would just go outside and then still be in the house, the roof would literally fall on my head. And it is, I can't do that. Like, I need to transition somehow. I need to do something to really relax my mind, because my mind is really on all day long. When I'm giving these trainings, sometimes 3 or 4 trainings a day, it's really energy draining, because I am entertaining hundreds of people over virtual conference. So I really need to step outside and disconnect. And so I go outside and I go for a walk with my dogs. Sometimes I go 20 minutes, because it only takes me 20 minutes to kind of get out of leave my work hat and put on my home hat. And sometimes I go for 2 hours. So find something, again, that you like to do, no matter what that is. It could be meditation, it could be stretching, it could be a workout, it could be connecting with friends or listen to a podcast. It's important that you do something and that you're really mindful about it. And here is a little disclaimer around expectations, because we are all having way too high expectations of ourselves. It's oftentimes not the other people. It's 99% of the time ourselves that put too much pressure on ourselves, on what we should be getting done, how we should be behaving, and we love to control things. Again, I say this out of experience. And we need to loosen that up a little bit, especially when we're working from home in this particular situation where we're not choosing this situation, and where all of the non-essential business is closed and we can't go to the gym, or we can't just meet our friends in the evening. It is important that we're a little bit gentle with ourselves, and we tell ourselves, hey, we really need to slow down here a little bit as well. Again, the growth mindset, it's something that I'm talking about in the other training, in the How to Navigate Ambiguity. We're talking a little bit more about how we set the right mindset and how we are creating resilience with that. But I like this here, set smart expectations with yourself. I'm sure that you're aware of the acronym SMART: specific, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and timely. And no matter if it's a goal or if it's an expectation or if it's a schedule, you can apply this to a lot of different things. And I want you to be really more smart with yourself and with your expectations and your schedule of what you can really get done, and then communicate that. Because we think very often, this is a really big problem, we often think that we get a task and we think that we need to get it done in like right now, because that's always our expectation. But then if we would have a conversation with our stakeholder about this, we would actually find out that maybe they only need this until 6 days from now. Or maybe they have the expectation that you're doing it right away, but it is an unrealistic expectations of your stakeholders or your clients. Then have that conversation as well. Don't just, don't just take it on and let yourself get stressed out by it because somebody else is putting their priorities onto you. Make sure that you are communicating and that you're setting expectations of when things get done. So the final task and exercise that I have for you today, and here's just the last slide on how to end your day. So you see here the peak performance method, again, adapted to how you should be thinking about your day. I really encourage you to have an evening routine as well. I'm sure you've heard about this. There's a lot of different things that you can do to kind of go out of your day and to signal to your body, now is time to wind down and go to sleep. And for the last exercise today, I want you to think about what is your biggest takeaway from today's session that you would like to test out and integrate into your life. Focus on one thing that you can change instead of thinking about maybe 5 things now that I told you that might be really interesting to you, because we tend to get overwhelmed if we are putting too much on our plate and then nothing gets done. So just focus on one thing and set that clear expectation with yourself. What would you like to test out over the next maybe 7 days? Sarah says, find a way to end my day on a positive note instead of always feeling disappointed I didn't get more done. Julia says, have a positive end to the workday by going for a walk and some fresh air. Go Cool says, setting clear work boundaries and breaks are important, more conscious effort to achieve it. Yeah, so boundaries, sleep as the anchor, want to adjust to a slightly earlier schedule to feel more productive. Dani says boundaries and transitioning from work to home. Awesome. Yeah, so boundaries is super important. Great. So you can finish writing those things down if you haven't finalized it. That is your takeaway. This is your biggest important thing. So please make sure that don't forget these things now. And since the training is over, this is really what you want to to start doing. And today's main takeaways are just kind of summarized here in this last tab. Have a clear start to your work, to your day before you start your work day. Set daily priorities and stick to the plan. Take regular breaks to recharge and avoid mental overload. Then make sure that you're transitioning from work to home, even if you are at home, and then find flexibility in what you do. This is all from me today. I would love if you would give me feedback on today's training. So you find a tab in here that says feedback form. So take a minute. It is only 3 questions. You can rate it really, really easily. So make sure that you're doing this. I would really appreciate it, and it helps me to make these trainings even better. I know that I can't talk about everything in these trainings, and they are, like I said, there is the How to Navigate Ambiguity training. If you're interested, feel free to fill out the form on my website, and I'll invite you to that one next week on Tuesday. And I also decided to set up an accountability group. So because I'm talking to so many people at the moment, and I want to help you, I want you to achieve the things that you're setting out to do, because I know that if we are setting goals and nobody checks on us, we kind of slip often. There's a lot of proof and research about how much that having an accountability or a success partner increases your chances to succeed by 95%. So for COVID-19, I have decided, again, that I'm doing this for free. So it's complimentary. You don't have to pay for this. If you are interested to be in a group just like today, where we're talking about your goals and where we're talking about your wins and your challenges, so you have that weekly check-in. We're starting with that group next week on Wednesday, on April 8th. I haven't really set up a lot of things yet, besides that little form that you can fill out if you're interested. And the only thing I know is it's going to be 30 minutes. And I will give you a small exercise to reflect on your progress, just as we did today. I am always going to have one little topic that I'm going to talk about. So next week, we're going to talk about 10 tips on how to be productive at home with kids. And then also, if one of the people that are joining has this particular question, I might bring them on in the call and then coach them quickly in front of all of you, in order to just hopefully help all of you and each other in order to go through a couple of coaching techniques or a couple of discussion points in order to help you really succeed. So if you would like to join, I would be really, really excited and happy to see you there. So make sure to fill out the form, and I'll send you more information about that. And if you have any questions for me today, I am available for another minute or 2, and then I have to jump off. But otherwise, you can always reach out to me. You have all of my contact information in here. I'm doing one-to-one free coaching sessions at the moment as well. So just set some time up in my calendar. If you want to bring this workshop to your team, again, I'm doing this all for free at the moment because I want to support my community and I want to support you, be the best version of yourself. Request a training for your team. Do this training or the other training or both trainings. Whatever I can do to help you, I am here for you, and I am really excited that you are here and that you are supporting me this way as well. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Julia.
A wonderful rest of your day or a wonderful start to your day, no matter where you are in the world.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
Julia.
you.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.